We stand in a city that should not exist. Warsaw, flattened by nearly 90% in 1944, was once described by a survivor as a cemetery masquerading as a capital. And yet, as we walk these streets now, we hear laughter, streetcars, the murmur of cafe conversations, and the echo of a national spirit that refused to die. What happens to a people when everything, homes, institutions, libraries, cathedrals, even the very shape of a city, is reduced to ash? Most nations fall apart. Poland did the opposite. It rebuilt not only its infrastructure, but its soul. And in that impossible act of reconstruction, we uncover a deeper question. What gives a nation its identity when memory itself becomes rubble? We arrive in Poland with a sense of quiet awe. Few countries have lived as intensely at the crossroads of history, where borders moved like tides and foreign empires came and went like storms. Yet again and again, Poles held to an identity that seemed carved into their collective memory rather than fixed to any single map. As we walk through Krakow's medieval streets, along the rebuilt avenues of Warsaw, and across the windswept fields of central Poland, we feel layers of national psychology pressing gently against the present. Poland, more than most nations, lives in conversation with its past. Its foundational myths, kings crowned under oak trees, uprisings fought in narrow alleys, and poets who kept the nation alive in the absence of a state, shape how Poles understand community, faith, moral choices, and legitimacy. This film becomes a journey into how a nation reconstructs itself after near total destruction. We will explore the turning points that hardened Poland's collective mindset, partitions that erased it from the map for 123 years, invasions that sought to crush the idea of Polishness, and a world war that obliterated cities and slaughtered communities. We'll examine how social structures shifted, how institutions collapsed and reemerged, how cultural memory became the backbone of resilience. But above all, we seek to understand a deeper truth: how people who lost everything found the will to rise from crisis, slowly, painfully, and decisively, until Poland once again stood as a nation with strength, legitimacy, societal cohesion, and a revived identity that continues to shape its global leadership today. We begin at a defining historical rupture: Poland's disappearance from the map in 1795. Few countries have endured such an existential blow. Three empires, Russia, Prussia, and Austria, partitioned the land and banned the Polish language from schools, courts, and public life. And yet we discover something extraordinary. The absence of a state did not erase national identity, it sharpened it. A. Historical turning points. We walk through museums and memorials that retell the story of clandestine schools run by women in farmhouses, secret printing presses producing forbidden poetry, and young men gathering in forests to train for uprisings they knew they might never see succeed. The Poles fought insurrections in 1830 and 1863, failures that paradoxically strengthened their collective mindset. The nation learned that identity could outlive defeat. B. Social and political structures. Under the partitions, Polish society reorganized itself without state institutions. Families became guardians of culture, churches became repositories of memory, intellectuals became symbolic legislators of the nation. Politics shifted from formal governance to underground networks, charitable associations, and cultural movements. Legitimacy did not come from state power, but from social memory. C. Cultural and intellectual achievements. We visit the Jagiellonian University in Krakow and see portraits of scholars who kept Poland's intellectual life alive during occupation. Polish literature, Mickiewicz, Słowacki, Norwood, became a quiet rebellion. Their words taught generations that the nation was not lost, but waiting. D. Psychological insight. This long period created a distinctive political psychology, a deep sense of resilience, moral responsibility, and a belief that identity must be protected collectively, not granted by institutions. Poles learned that the state can vanish, but the nation, if carried in language, memory, and faith, endures. E. Counterintuitive truths. Here we encounter surprising truths. Poland's strongest nationalism was born when it lacked a state. Cultural institutions, not political ones, determined national strength. The erasure of borders intensified cohesion rather than weakening it. F. Human-centered storytelling. We meet families in small villages who tell stories passed down from great-grandparents forced to speak Polish in whispers. They describe how teachers risked prison to teach children their own history. Ordinary citizens became custodians of identity in a world determined to erase it. In this act, we realize Poland's post-World War II recovery did not begin in 1945. It began in the 19th century, in the quiet solidarity of occupied people who learned how to build identity without buildings, borders, or armies. When Germany and the Soviet Union invaded in 1939, Poland once again faced annihilation, but the scale this time was beyond imagination. We walk through the ruins of Warsaw in archival photographs, streets dissolved into dust, entire neighborhoods deleted. Poland lost 6 million citizens, half of them Jews. Nearly every major city was destroyed. Institutions were decapitated. Intellectuals were executed. Communities were uprooted. A. Historical turning points. We revisit the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising of 1943 and the Warsaw Uprising of 1944, two acts of defiance that remained central to Polish national identity. The first was a Jewish resistance, the largest of its kind in World War II. The second involved the entire city rising against German occupation. Both were doomed militarily. Both became moral pillars of Polish memory. B. Social and political structures. Poland created the largest underground state in occupied Europe. Judges held court in basements. Teachers taught in apartments. Universities operated secretly. A resistance army, numbering hundreds of thousands, documented war crimes, rescued children, and sent reports to London. Where institutions were outlawed, Poles built them anyway. C. Cultural and intellectual achievements. Even in the ghetto, music did not die. Even in hiding, poets wrote. We stand in front of a surviving fragment of the ghetto wall and imagine the extraordinary courage of those who created art amid destruction, a defiant insistence that humanity itself must be preserved. D. Psychological insight. The war embedded a deep scar into the Polish collective mindset, trauma intertwined with pride. Suffering became woven into identity, but so did resistance. This dual psychology, pain and defiance, would shape Poland's post-war recovery and its modern political behavior. E. Counterintuitive insights. Poland's wartime losses created unity rather than division. The underground state was more cohesive than many European governments in exile. Cultural memory, songs, poems, stories became strategic tools of survival. F. Human-centered storytelling. A survivor tells us, "When they burned our libraries, we memorized what they destroyed." Another says, "We rebuilt because the dead demanded it." These voices reveal how deeply memory and moral choices guided Poland's recovery, even before the war ended. In 1945, Poland faced a reality almost no modern nation has survived: total destruction, cities leveled, borders redrawn, the Holocaust's unspeakable void, and a new communist regime imposed by the Soviet Union. A. Historical turning points. We walk through Warsaw's old town, rebuilt brick by brick from paintings and memories. This reconstruction, carried out by ordinary citizens, became one of the greatest acts of civic resilience in modern history. It wasn't just architecture, it was psychology. Rebuilding the capital was a declaration that the nation still belonged to its people. B. Social and political structures.
Communism reshaped society, but not the underlying identity. The state centralized control, nationalized industries, and censored dissent. But Poles created parallel structures, underground churches, artistic circles, informal networks of trust. Legitimacy shifted again, not to the government, but to communities. C. Cultural achievements. Despite censorship, Poland became a cultural powerhouse. Film directors, poets, and scholars turned subtle dissent into world-class art. The Polish School of Cinema, born in the 1950s, used allegory to speak truths the regime tried to silence. D. Psychological insight. Poles became experts in navigating dual realities, one official, one authentic. This sharpened a political psychology rooted in skepticism of authority and reliance on grassroots cohesion. E. Counterintuitive insights. Rebuilding destroyed cities strengthened national identity more than preserving them ever could. The communist state unintentionally reinforced Polish solidarity by trying to suppress it. The memory of World War II remained a political force that shaped daily life for decades. F. Human stories. We meet elderly residents of Warsaw who recall mixing mortar as teenagers, helping rebuild their own streets. Others describe life under shortages, ration lines, and censorship, but also the quiet joy of choirs, church festivals, and secretly shared books. Poland rebuilt not just with bricks, but with rituals of togetherness. By the 1970s and 1980s, economic stagnation and political repression pushed Polish society to a breaking point. Then, something unprecedented happened. A grassroots labor movement, Solidarity, formed in the shipyards of Gdansk. A. Historical turning points. Solidarity became the first independent trade union in the Eastern Bloc. 10 million Poles joined. Its power was not military or financial, but moral. It demanded legitimacy, dignity, and the right to truth. These demands shook an empire. B. Social and political structures. Solidarity created a new model of democracy from below. Workers, intellectuals, priests, and youth stood together. The Polish church became a protector of civil society. Neighborhood groups distributed leaflets. Underground radio stations spread information. The communist state could not contain a movement built on trust and shared suffering. C. Cultural achievements. Songs, posters, and underground newspapers became symbols of courage. In a country where words had once been banned by empires, speech again became liberation. D. Psychological insight. Poles' power came from Poland's long tradition of grassroots structures forged during the partitions and World War II. The nation remembered how to resist. Its collective mindset was shaped by generations who passed down the skills of underground organization. E. Counterintuitive insights. A workers' movement triggered the collapse of the Soviet sphere. Poland's poorest citizens led one of the most sophisticated civil movements of the century. The struggle for bread and the struggle for truth became the same fight. F. Human stories. Workers describe welding machines by day and printing illegal newspapers by night. Mothers recall hiding activists in basements. Priests describe midnight masses held for striking shipyard workers. This was not just politics, it was a society rediscovering its moral compass. As we stand again in modern Poland, in thriving Gdansk, vibrant Krakow, rebuilt Warsaw, we feel the weight of everything Poles endured and everything they rebuilt. Poland's journey shows that national resilience is not the absence of suffering, but the ability to transform it into purpose. It reveals that legitimacy comes not only from institutions, but from the trust nurtured in families, communities, and cultural memory. It proves that crisis recovery is not a moment, but a long intergenerational conversation. Poland rebuilt its identity through moral choices made in silence and in struggle, in uprisings and in classrooms, in underground newspapers and in reconstructed streets. Its collective psychology was shaped by loss, but also by an unshakable belief that national strength comes from people, not governments. Today, Poland's experience offers lessons to the world that societal cohesion can survive total destruction, that institutional integrity can be rebuilt from the bottom up, that a rise from crisis is possible even when the world thinks a nation has fallen for good. And as we leave, we ask a final question. What does it take for any nation, ours, yours, or the world's, to rebuild not just what was lost, but who we are?